All right, folks, it is Monday night. It is time for another live Q&A. And today was a rainy day here, which is rare for us, but we are enjoying the rain. So it was also a computer day. Spend most of the day on the computer, which is never all that much fun, but it is necessary. So hi to everyone. I see a lot of folks already in the chat. So if you have questions, and I just realized I did not shave. If you have questions, leave them in the comments and Jason will get to them. Yeah, I guess I haven't looked at myself in the mirror all day. So good stuff, good stuff. Yeah, it's been busy yet quiet, which is good because we get to work on a lot of cool projects right now. We're not doing a whole lot of traveling and we are in the office. So it's kind of fun. That's my favorite time of year. It gets colder outside. We get to enjoy the outdoors even more. And yeah, the holidays are right around the corner. I cannot believe 2025 is almost done. I feel like literally January was yesterday. We have done so much, been so busy this year that it's just flown by. So let's say hi to a bunch of folks. Let's see who we got in the chat, and then we'll go from there. We'll start to answer questions. I see a bunch of them in my list. We have Richard Hooker here, Engineer Drone Services. That's our friend Minot. We have Dave DeVore, Curtis Warren, Thorold Inspired, Hike and Fly, Eric Ruffschneider. We have Chris Capune. This is weird. For some reason, I'm seeing all of the name tags, but not like I know Richard. Usually it says Richard Hooker, but here it says Richard Hooker 1962. I wonder if there is a different setting in here. That's interesting. Anyways, I'm going to keep going. Bluegrass Astro, we have Super 8mm, drone angles, Leo De Cardenas, we have Steve A, drone angles, Just Johnny 2012 is here, Dr. Gonstead, we have Orange Schwartz, Cajun Greenman, Mountain Man, we have Video Tao 008, Scott Jordan, Dallas, User Sip, I don't know. From Phoenix, welcome. I heard it rained quite a bit in Phoenix today, so hopefully you stayed dry. We have Woodworker, Denyak. Yes, something is messed up with my display here. I'm only seeing the username. I'm not seeing the actual name behind the username. Anyways, Lawrence Talbert. We have KitKat, Simmerman, Skypod Images, Stinker 337, Sparky. Our friend Sparky is here. We have Scott. We have Mark. Jim is here. Schlusserman here a lot. Avian Robots. That's not what it says. Aviano Rob. Close. Anyway, I'm gonna stop here because it's actually very difficult to read. Usually I can read those names much more easily. If anybody has a hint as to why I'm only seeing usernames and I am not seeing people's actual name, then let me know. Unless YouTube changed something, which is also a possibility. Are you guys seeing all the usernames as well in the chat? No, people can put their actual name in here. Like we are Pilot Institute, but our handle is @PilotInstitute. And here I'm only seeing the @ones. I'm not seeing the actual name behind it because, yeah, anyways. It makes it a lot harder to read. Like Fire Chief, it usually just says Fire Chief, but here it says Fire Chief 40. I never see the 40. Usually I just see the username. But anyways, good stuff. Let's get, hey, Original Dobo is here. Did you get lost? All right. Yes, please. Quick, someone give him some chocolate. I did have chocolate. I had a chocolate croissant actually that was really good today. So it works. Okay, let's get to the questions and let's get going. We have Richard says, first question of the day, after seeing where drones have gone over the last 5 years, what do you expect drone life to be like in the next 5 years? Will the public still have access to drones? Yeah, I don't believe the public will be will have drones taken away. I don't think that's the goal. As much as we might think that the government wants to take the drones away from us, I don't think that's the goal. But where is it going to be in 5 years? Well, I think it's going to be really interesting. The DJI thing obviously is on everybody's mind at the moment. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know how crafty DJI is going to be with all these laws and trying to bypass them. It's definitely going to be interesting. Are we going to see as much progress in the next 5 years as we have seen in the last 5 years or 10 years? I don't think so. Primarily because I think the technology in a way has somewhat plateaued, and that's expected, just like every technology. Just like, you pick up your phone, you pick up your laptop, the technology in the last 5 years is not changing as quickly as it did, early on. You look at the iPhone 1 through the iPhone 5 or the equivalent in the other brand, they're not changing as much now as they did back then. So I think that's where we are. I think that's where we're going to be. We're going to see bigger sensors. We're going to see more flight time. But I think it's definitely going to slow down a little bit. Yeah, I don't know what else to say, but I don't think the access to drones is going to change for the average user. Yeah, that's all I got to say. Next, so what is considered a monetized YouTube channel, and can I upload my drone videos on that if I don't earn money? Yeah, monetize means just like that. It means that, you know, YouTube is paying you for your videos being on YouTube. That happens after a while, but really the bottom line is this: the FAA wants to see that if you're flying non-recreationally, then you need to have Part 107. If you are flying recreationally, then you can just follow the rules under USC 44809. And so, as such, you know, the monetized channel is something that we mentioned where, hey, you have a YouTube channel and you're making money off of it and you're using drones to get footage, then that falls under Part 107. You need to have a Part 107 certificate. That's kind of the bottom line. Okay. Leo says, in planning for a mission to ensure required separation below the clouds, is there a list and maybe prioritization of base data sources to determine cloud-based altitude for your location? That's a tough one. At the moment, there's not really like a centralized location for that, but, well, there's not a centralized, very accurate location for that. What I would do is I would find the closest airport, if there is one, and then use that data from the weather reports. So the ADIS or the AWAS, if you're in the course, you know how to read that information, and that's what I would use. But otherwise, it's going to be, you know, you making your decision as you get to the location. You're going to try to find some landmarks and try to determine the altitude of those clouds as you're flying. So yeah, by the way, I said I was going to yawn a lot, and I'm probably going to yawn a lot because I spend all day looking at my screen. So, but yeah, I know it's probably not the answer that you're looking for, but that the FAA allows you to estimate your altitude based on looking at the drone and seeing what altitude it's at. You should be able to do the same for clouds. If the DJI ban happens, what are the affordable options for DFR programs? Interesting. So first off, I don't like the word DJI ban necessarily. DJI, at the moment, the biggest risk for DJI is to be added to the FCC covered list, which means that future drones would not be approved by the FCC to be flown in the United States or to be operated in the United States. So, yeah. If that happens, affordable options for DFR programs don't really exist, unfortunately. So there are options. Are they affordable? No, not necessarily. And so, I mean, you've got Paladin, Skydio, Brink, I think, has a DFR solution as well now. So those are kind of the top three that I'm aware of. I know there are more, but I'm not really all that deep into DFR stuff, so I don't know all of the details, but those are the top three that I know on top of my head. But yeah, as far as affordable, if you're looking for DJI pricing for DFR programs, that's not available at the moment. Minut says, I have seen worst case scenario prep for fixed wing. Okay, what are the top three worst case scenario to prepare for a UAS pilot in command? Okay, I've seen worst case scenarios prep for fixed wing. I mean, fixed wing are a different animal because well, first off, they fly quicker, so you got to be ready for that. They fly a lot quicker. Typically, they're going to fly with a semi-automated pattern. They're not really hand-flown, at least fixed wing used in the commercial world. You can obviously fly fixed wing aircraft visually, but yeah, those are they're faster. They typically fly a little bit higher, and also, if something happens, they're going to glide because they have the lift created by the wing, as opposed to a multi-rotor, which is more than likely going to fall if something happens to the battery or to the motors or whatever it is. So I don't know. I have top 3 worst case scenario. I'm trying to think on the fly here, but yeah, these aircraft, they fly differently. So you have to be aware of how they fly, which we do teach in the course, in the Part 107 course. But yeah, different. Multi-rotor is a power plane failure or motor failure or propeller failure. Anything that generates the lift that fails, in which case the aircraft will likely flip over and fall to the ground. So I would be much more. I mean, it's like the difference between a helicopter crash and an airplane crash. An airplane doesn't fall out of the sky. Now, helicopter pilots will tell you that helicopters don't fall out of the sky, but they kind of do compared to an airplane where the airplane is just going to glide. So same thing with a fixed wing. It's going to glide rather than just fall straight down. So yeah. What equipment and control, this is from Dr. Gonstead, are used during autonomous flight? Is there computer software? Yeah, well, so autonomous flights, it depends on how you define autonomous flights, but so most people think of autonomous flight as a pre-programmed mission that has been planned in the controller, and then the drone goes and, you push start, and then the drone goes and does the mission. And you can still kind of take over the flight control. Under Part 108, the FAA looked at it slightly differently, where they said there's no pilot in the loop. The drone is going to do everything, and it's going to avoid an object if something happens, and it's going to land somewhere if something happens. So that's their definition of an autonomous flight. Yes, there is definitely a computer software that's going to do all of that. And in some cases, there might be software on board to detect and avoid other aircraft as well. FTFO Media says, when submitting a waiver to the FAA and they request your company's manual for review, what recommendations do you have on how the manual should be structured and key things to include? If you are part of our waiver course, we have some samples of these documents, company manual. But the company manual is the place where you highlight everything that you do. So how do you pre-flight your aircraft? How do you do a pre-brief of the area? How do you start the aircraft? How do you conduct the mission? After the mission, what do you do? Do you do a post-flight? How do you check the weather? How do you check for airspace? If you need airspace authorization, what are you going to do? Think about it as this document is something that you hand out to a brand new person that's starting in the company, and you hand them out that document, and they should be able, after they read it, to fully operate and do everything that you do the same way. Okay, that's your operations manual. That's the best way that I can describe it, but it takes time to create these company manuals. And the simpler your operation is, the simpler your manual is going to be. But as you get more and more complex, I always like to think about it as, we call them SOP, standard operating procedures, as, hand this out to a brand new person and they should be able to do the job, no problem. Yengen says, do you think 107 rules are going to change to require a skills test for certification? No, I don't think we're going to get there, especially after the FAA came up with this Part 108 where they don't even want to see pilots in the loop. No, I don't think Part 107 is going to change. It's been around for a decade now. It's working just fine as it is without the certification test, the skills test. Do I wish that there was one? Yes, kind of. It does add a level of complexity to the certification process for sure. It makes it less reachable for most people. But coming from the manned aircraft world, I do believe in skills, actual physical flying skills. The question is, how do you put something like that in place? Many countries out there do have this procedure where you have to get a skills test. So why not? Slacker U says, what is the security problem? I'm guessing you're talking about DJI maybe. Is it the single pass 3D imaging without LiDAR? Does this mean my Mini just needs a firmware update? I don't understand the question. If you can maybe rephrase, I'm not sure. Do you have a retail store at your Prescott location? We do not. This is just the headquarters here in the studio. We typically don't have people, customers coming in and out of the of this location. So everything that we sell is pretty much available online. But we do have student visits from time to time. But please call us ahead of time. It's always difficult when we always have projects going on. And from time to time, we have people coming up at the door and saying, "Hey, I'm a student," which is awesome. We do love to see students, but if you can give us a heads up before you come in, we never know if we typically schedule recording times during the day, and if we know several days ahead, then we can fit you in during a time where we're not recording. But it's not always easy to spend the time that we want to spend with the students. So if you come in to the office, let us know ahead of time. Where can I purchase a Mini 4 Pro, Mini 5 Pro these days? Mini 5 Pro is officially not available in the United States in the DJI store, but there are some places that have them, so do a little bit of research. And then Mini 4 Pro, same thing. The same places that sell the Mini 5 likely are selling the Mini 4 as well. Yeah. You can also try to buy an off-brand drone that looks like a DJI drone, squeaks like a DJI drone. We have the yellow one, which is, I can never remember its name, the Sky Rover what is it? X1. Sky Rover X1 is pretty much, we've tested it now, we've flown it a couple times. It's very much a Mini 4 Pro in disguise with a yellow skin. So if you can find one of those, then they're a lot easier to find than the DJI branded one. But I bought the Specta Air when it comes out. The Specta Air, okay. Now I'm stuck with no updates. So the ODM drone DJI is pushing. Wait, oh God, guys, when you write questions, please write them correctly so I can read them. So the Specta Air, you're basically saying that it doesn't have any updates. Yeah, I mean, do drones really need to have updates is the question. If everything is working fine, you might not be getting the update that DJI is pushing to their drone. But if you bought the drone and it was good back then with no update, then it should continue flying just fine without additional updates. So I don't know that the lack of parts is a bigger issue than the lack of update, in my opinion. Next, many air traffic control staff are not showing up to work due to the government shutdown. Could 2 people who are still on the job with advanced AI permanently replace all of them? No. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I hate to think of AI replacing controllers right now. It's a job that is pretty difficult. I'm sure at one point we will get to that. But just like we're not letting AI fly airplanes, commercial airplanes, I don't think we're at the point where we should be letting AI separate aircraft full of people with hundreds of people on board. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm just saying that at the moment, I don't think we're ready for that. There are a lot of factors involved. When everything goes well, it's probably pretty easy, but not pretty easy. It's probably possible, but when shit hits the fan, then that's when you want to have that person making the decisions. But we've seen how well automation has worked for the 2 drones from Amazon that crashed into that crane recently. If we can't have 2 drones flying back to back and avoiding a crane, I don't think we should be having technology separate aircraft full of people. Not yet, at the very least. Cars are fine. Cars are doing it at the moment. Cars have sensors that can avoid people. That's been working pretty well. When I get, I am authorized to fly in this area checkbox on my controller, is that always a sign of a restricted area? No, I don't know. It's a sign that there is definitely airspace that you should be aware of and that you probably need to have authorization for. It doesn't mean that it's restricted. It means that more than likely authorization is required, if that makes sense. So check the UAS facility map always. see if you need to have authorization. So use something like Aloft, air control to get approval. And then after that, when you get to DJI, you can just click that box and say, yep, I'm good to go. Ryan says, with Sport Pilot now only requiring a driver's license, medical to fly, okay, do you see the FAA lowering the medical requirement to fly ag drone under Part 137? So Sport has not changed in the way that the medical requirements are set. So that's not something new. You've always only ever needed a driver's license to fly with Sport. And keep in mind, the Sport Pilot certificate is a recreational certificate, although I know there's also a recreational certificate. It's a certificate to fly recreationally, let's put it this way, so it's less confusing. Part 137, ag operation, is a commercial operation, and as such, I don't see them changing the requirements for medical. But with that being said, under Part 138, Part 108, my God, under Part 108, the FAA did not propose any sort of medical requirements for operating these drones fully autonomously beyond visual line of sight, including ag drones. So I don't know, maybe that will change. The way I understood Part 108 is that with it, Part 137 would be going away if you're flying fully autonomously, but we'll see. That's a tough one. What about the FCC removing millions of Chinese electronic listing as DJI is also facing the December covered list deadline? Yeah, I mean, I've seen some headlines. You got to be careful with these headlines. Oh my God, bang my head on the mic here. I get annoyed when there are misleading headlines and you start to read the text and it's even more misleading until you read that one line, and that one line says it's not an issue and this whole article was about nothing. So be careful with this. Yes, the FCC is doing certain stuff to some Chinese electronic which have nothing to do with DJI. They're not DJI branded. We don't know what the FCC thing is going to look like. Well, actually, we do know what the FCC thing is going to look like. It's going to be DJI being added to the covered list. That's all we know. We don't know what the FCC is going to do. There are some weird wording in some places, but I would not read too much into it. I would not get roped up into headlines designed for clicks until we have full proof of whatever's happening. So there you have it. Let's put it this way. Okay. Let me tell you about some of the stuff that has been published in the last week. We know that in December, if DJI does not go through, if there is no audit done of DJI at the government level, they will be added to the FCC covered list, which means that DJI will not be able to get new drones approved under the FCC. Now, could the FCC decide further with different ruling to block DJI from being sold in the United States with drones that were previously approved? Yes, they could, absolutely. Could the FCC also remove approval from... So let me go back to the previous one. Could they prevent DJI from being sold in the United States, even with current drones? Yes, they could. Is it enforceable? Maybe, probably, possibly. Could the FCC also remove approval of current drones? Yeah, of course they can. They're the FCC. They can do whatever the hell they want. Could they enforce that? I don't know. Could the FCC... Does the FCC have the ability to go after millions of drones that are currently flying in the United States under the name of DJI and basically say, oh, you're flying this illegally? Unlikely. Is this a battle that they want to go after? I don't know. You never know, especially you never know. So it's all speculation until we see the actual proposed text, until the text goes through the proper channels to get approved and turn into law, we don't know. It's all speculation. So, yeah. What else? I don't know what else to say. I hate speculating. So, especially with things like that, where it creates mass panic from folks because of articles designed for clicks. Anyways, I'm gonna go to a different topic. Hey, brother. Aeroscan 3D. If DJI is on the FCC covered list, what about all the things they make, like Mike, the Ronin, and all the other stuff? Yes, all of these devices that use communication will be on the same boat, not just drones. So that includes cameras because they use Bluetooth. That includes the Ronin series of gimbals because they also use Bluetooth. That includes pretty much everything except the battery pack, and then the battery pack. That's all I can think that DJI makes that's not connected to some sort of airwave. So we'll have a lot of battery packs to purchase, which are really nice item, by the way. Any question that starts with will XXXXX work after the DJI ban? The answer is yes, it will keep working. I see people saying DJI is going to break their drones. No, DJI is not going to break their drone. And I'll tell you why. Because DJI is it's a $1 billion company that sells drones all over the world. What kind of signal would they be sending if they decided to screw all of their customers in the United States by breaking their drone? What advantage do they have in doing that? They already get the money from the customer, and breaking the drone would send nothing but vibes to the rest of the world. So no, DJI is not going to break your drone if they get banned in the United States through the FCC. That is complete and utter nonsense. So yes. And the FCC does not have the ability to break your drone, by the way, either. Neither does the FAA or anybody else. So you will still continue to be able to fly these drones. What about my Air 3S, though? Ben, you're going to get punched. Not on camera. Well, it might happen. I have the DJI Neo as the recent UAS on my fleet. What remote ID module or device do you recommend for the DJI Neo to stay compliant under Part 107? There's any DJI any remote ID module that you find out there is just going to work. So get the cheapest possible one that you can find that's on the FAA website and approved, and that's it. Just put it on top of the drone. We've seen some for like $20, like the Zing, I think Zing is like $20 online. There's a bunch of them on Amazon, as long as it's approved on the FAA website. Otherwise, don't get it. But yeah, that's it. Do you have any suggestions on how to successfully get a waiver to fly beyond visual line of sight over somewhere like a wooded state game area? So, I mean, the recommendation is no different than any other waiver that you're going to submit for BVLOS flying. I'm guessing a wooded state game area is pretty unpopulated, so it should not be all that difficult to get a BVLOS waiver. But make sure that you have something in place to avoid traffic in the air. That's the biggest thing the FAA is going to want to see. So whether you're using visual observers that are strategically positioned throughout, or a visual observer that's going to follow the drone, but you need something to detect and avoid other people flying in the area. Are you familiar with the Potensic drones? I mean, I know of them. We've never really had one in the office to test. The reviews are mixed on those drones. They're obviously lower quality, and yeah. I don't know what else to say. They would not be on the top of my recommendation list, if that helps any. But How does the Pilot Institute Part 107 course differ from the Public Safety Part 107 course? Public safety is pretty much exactly the same course content, except it's geared towards public safety agencies. So all the examples that I use in there are based on public safety. It's just a course that we designed specifically for them. We also offer additional courses that come with it that are geared towards public safety. If you're not a public safety agency, then you should not be taking that course, because it's just going to not be the right examples for you, but it's really the same type. It's the same goal, is to get you to pass the exam and be a proficient pilot. Anyone else having issues with the DJI Mini 4 Pro suddenly not being able to fly full range, usually flown, and operational range shrinking during flight? Nope. The only time I've seen that is when I needed to sign in. When you need to sign, yeah, but that would be very limiting. Yeah, but also not during flight. That's like immediately when you take off. Yeah. All right. Jorge is saying, what is the best second option for DJI for pro jobs? Best second option is Autel, which is also on the same exact list. By the way, we keep saying DJI, but DJI and Autel both would be added to the FCC covered list, courtesy of Stefanik, who is the person behind this. So, yep. No. Why doesn't DJI create a US-specific entity or operation similar to how TikTok discussed doing to address all of the government concerns and avoid bans? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't work for DJI, but you got to think about this, right? I gave that example to someone the other day. Imagine you build this company and you start selling your stuff to Australia. And then Australia says, if you want to keep selling your stuff to us, then you have to sell your company to an Australian company, which is essentially what the TikTok deal is. Would you be okay with that? I don't think I would. I don't think I would. I spend my time building this company and I own this company. Why should I sell it to sell my product to another place? And I think that's where DJI is at right now. And what about building drones in the United States? That's another thing that I hear all the time. And yeah, I think that would be a great idea if they had the ability to create, government specific drones in the United States. But that would never fly, because the problem with DJI is it's a Chinese owned company. And there's only one way to change that, is for the company to be owned by some other person that lives in another country. So unless the owner of DJI moves the entire company to a different place, the manufacturing is not really the issue. The folks that are anti-DJI would still say, well, it's still a Chinese company, and just make their drone in the United States. So that would not fly. What drones would you recommend for Part 107 completion when going into the real estate photography area? I have a Mini 2, but want something more updated. I mean, the Air 3S is still king to me at the moment from DJI. If you can find one, I would go for that. I'm sure there's some on the used market somewhere, but yeah. Do you think the DJI Flip will ever have internal remote ID? Could DJI turn it on at some point? Yeah, they could. So, remote ID is really just it's a software thing. It's a software switch. They don't turn it on in the United States because of the size of the drone. It's not required. And if they turn it on, then it means that all recreational users would be broadcasting remote ID, which is something that DJI has done in the past and backtrack and removed, because they don't want to be forcing people to broadcast remote ID if they don't have to by law. And so because the Flip is a recreational drone and because it's under the weight limit for remote ID, then it doesn't have remote ID. I don't foresee a time when DJI is going to turn it on. But if you want to comply with remote ID with this drone, you would just put a module on top of it, and then you would be compliant. So it's really simple to comply if you wanted to comply, if that makes sense. Next, Flying Brian says, was someone from Pilot Institute flying at an indoor event a few days ago in Prescott where one of the guests on stage tried to knock the drone out of the air? Nope. I have no idea what that is.
I can neither confirm nor deny such a thing occurred.
Huh? I don't.
It wasn't us.
It definitely wasn't us. How do you start a drone crop dusting business? I think step one is to be in that space for a while. You have to understand how all of that works. Okay. What are you going to offer? What service are you going to offer your customers? And then, of course, the equipment is a big thing. So you'll have to get equipment. More than likely, it's going to be over 55 pounds. So you're going to have to get a 49 USC 44807 exemption to fly that larger drone than 55 pounds. And then you're going to need to have Part 137 approval, not 107, 137 approval to fly pesticides with an aircraft and drop pesticides from an aircraft. So there's a couple of things, but again, my recommendation would be first that you know about the business, the core business of agriculture and crop dusting and all of that, if that makes any sense. Black Sheep Dino says, as a private pilot, is there more of a risk of an infraction flying a drone under recreational or Part 107 as far as being punished as a private pilot rating? The same, quite frankly. An infraction is an infraction. So if you're flying recreationally, the FAA, just like everything else, under 107 or under recreational, the FAA is not going to give you a fine unless you did something dumb on purpose, or something very dumb not on purpose that goes above and beyond. So I'll give you an example. The guy that flew into the Super Scooper in California, right? He did something really dumb, and he kind of did it on purpose. He didn't fly to the aircraft on purpose, obviously, but he flew in that area apparently knowingly, allegedly knowingly. He knew that there was a restriction, and he knew he was flying beyond visual line of sight, so he knew he was breaking the rules. In that case, the FAA dropped the hammer. But if you get caught flying, I don't even know a good example, flying beyond visual line of sight slightly, or if you get caught, with your registration out of date or not having the aircraft registered, they're not going to take your private pilot certificate away for that. They're going to give you a warning at first, say don't do it again, and then if you do it again, then you might get in trouble. But yeah, if that makes any sense. Yeah, if you smuggle stuff over a prison, or if you, that kind of stuff, not recommended. Primal Drone says, are you going to be at Elevate UAS in Miami next week? Unfortunately, no. I had previous travel that was scheduled, personal travel that was scheduled, so won't be able to make it, but I'm going to add it to the list for next year. I think that's a great event, and we should be over there. Any more questions? Leave them in the comments. We got 20 minutes to go. Don't know what else to say. Air 2S is a great drone. Yes, Air 2S was, for a long time, Air 2S was our favorite drone until the Air 3 came out, and then the Air 3S, but still is a great drone. Okay. Anybody else with any other comment? I'm trying to see who else is in here. If not, we're just going to end the show early and then go do something else, just like all of you. I don't want to just talk for just talking. Why is the Mini 5 Pro broadcasting remote ID? I have the smaller battery and never use the plus battery. The Mini 5 Pro, well, the Mini 5 Pro is the new one, and it's more than likely broadcasting remote ID because it's over 250 grams. And by law, DJI is required to have remote ID broadcasting from these drones. So that's where we're at. That's my guess only. I haven't verified that with DJI themselves, but that would be my guess. Anything over 0.55 pounds needs to have remote ID broadcasting from the drone when it's manufactured. Sparky says, I paid for an hour, you will talk for an hour. I'll give you guys all refund on your free performance tonight if we end up finishing early. Will DJI just repackage and rename new products? That's my guess. That's my guess, is that they're just going to keep on creating shell companies to sell you a DJI product that's not called DJI, and then it's going to be impossible for anyone to keep track of it. Obviously, it's not the best option because it means that parts are harder to find, and that support is harder to find as well. So, yeah, it's more difficult for sure. And I did read some headlines. I didn't read the text today that was saying the FCC or someone is trying to prevent them from doing that. So we'll see. You know, there's some. I watched something unrelated, like somebody that had another product, and you've seen those products where one is branded with a sticker and the other one doesn't have a sticker, but it's a lot cheaper on a different website. It's the exact same product, except somebody slapped their logo on it and then they're selling it for more expensive. How do you keep track of it? How do you know which one is what? And yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. We have an app for everything. Why not for TFRs? We do have an app for TFR. Well, we have a website for TFR. So tfr.fa.gov. Will DJI, I just read that. Do you have any contact at DJI who might know if the Air 3S will ever work with goggles like the AI3 currently does? What's AI3?
Probably a misspell, probably Air 3.
Oh, I'm thick. Oh, Air 3. Duh. I don't know. This is one thing that I hate about DJI is the compatibility of remote controllers and goggles with drones makes no sense whatsoever. And maybe it makes sense to someone in the engineering team, and maybe I just haven't been told what the sense is. But to me, it just doesn't make sense. Like, one is compatible with this, but not with the other one. Why not make just everything as compatible as you can? I understand we can't make it compatible with everything, but wouldn't you sell more controllers if you had the ability to make it compatible with almost everything? I don't see why we couldn't have something compatible with even an older model, right? I don't know, but so no, I don't know. I don't know what the goggle compatibility is going to look like. It's tough. What is the highest KP value that you will fly your drone? I don't worry too much about KP index. Probably should, but it's hard to, unless you have something to measure it on the spot. I would not really trust those values all too much. If I know there's a solar flare event that's happening, then yeah, I would definitely look at what that projection is going to be for that area where you are. But I know there's an app, and I don't know if it still exists. The drone pre-flight app, I can't remember the name of it, but it used to give you, or it still gives you, the KP index. And I find that to be, unless it's measured on the spot by the device, then that's a tough one. I don't think the iPhone has a way to measure the KP. What about what? Pollen count. Pollen. If I start to sneeze more than twice in a row, that's probably the end of it. There was one time we went flying, one spring when stuff was pollinating, And I remember seeing those clouds. It was like the clouds were on fire, or at least smoking, because the wind was catching up all the pollen and just lifting it up in the air. And every time there was a little bit gust of wind, it would just lift this cloud up. And it was literally like the trees. We thought the trees were smoking, and all it was just pollen. And I have never sneezed that many times in my life. And I just came home. My abs were hurting from sneezing so much. Yeah, it's a good workout. And then next day I had like a six. No, just, and holy crap, it was just so uncomfortable. So yeah, never again. My eyes were just on fire. And I've never been allergic before to pollen until I came to Prescott. And Prescott is like the capital of pollen allergies because I don't know why. But yeah, that was not fun. So anyway, 2 sneezes, I'm out. Does the FAA publish all the fines and reasons for it? No. Every once in a while, they come up with a post where they talk about how much they've issued, but it's hard. Ooh, excuse me. It's hard to find the details. UAV forecast, that's right, that was the app. I don't know if it still exists. But yes, every once in a while, the FAA will publish some stuff, but it's not on a regular basis, and there's not really a way that I found, at the very least, to get all that data, unless you submit for a FOIA request, and you would have to ask, what be very specific about what you're looking for. Do you have any suggestion to help me not having the reading retention of studying for the Part 107? Writing things down, maybe. It depends. It depends on the kind of person you are. But I've seen people writing things down, helping them to retain the information. Looking at taking notes with the lecture notes that we have in the course. Also with doing flashcards. The flashcards can help with the retention. Watching the videos multiple times, once or twice. Beyond that, I don't know. That's all I can think of, really. But yeah. Are there any updates on flying over national parks? I keep seeing people trying to justify launching outside and flying in. Yeah, I mean, just because you can doesn't mean you should, is what I always say with that one. I would not want to fly inside a national park. They were put there for a reason. What if you're disturbing wildlife and the park rangers find out about it? Then you could be in trouble. There's just a lot of reasons not to do it. Of course, you would have to do it within visual line of sight anyway, which is not always possible. And then lastly, some parks have additional airspace limitations, like the Grand Canyon, for example. So if you fly at the Grand Canyon, you're busting airspace, so you're no longer doing that legally, even if you could do it legally with the technique that you mentioned. But yeah, I refuse to do it. I just refuse to do it. So that's just personal. What is the highest wind gust that you will fly your drone? Depends on the drone. If I'm flying a Mini, then it's going to be a lot less. If I'm flying with an Inspire 3, then it's going to be a lot more, or the Matrice 300 that we have. So depends on the drone. Some drones are just going to fly away more easily. So I don't know that I have a number. I have a gut feeling. I look outside, I kind of feel the wind, and I'm like, yeah, probably not the best idea. Remember also that the wind on the ground can be completely different than wind at altitude. So if you start flying and the wind is giving you that high wind warning, you might want to be careful if you have one of those drones that gives it to you. Yeah, there's not a single number. It's more about the situation. Miami Business Photos says my Evo 2 Pro V1 just died. Wow. And I could not find another one in stock. I just purchased the DJI Air 3S. What do you think about that drone, and how does it compare? I think you'll like it. I think it's going to be more than comparable. It's not as beefy. The Evo 2 Pro always was a really solid drone, it's built like a tank. But I think you'll get, and it had good battery life. I think the Air 3S will have probably pretty similar battery life. As far as image quality, similar, if not better, on the Air 3S. The Evo 2 Pro is older for sure already, and different color science on the Autel than there is on the DJI. So I would, it's going to take maybe a little while to get used to the color science. It looks different. That's it. Otherwise, I think you made a good decision. It's both great drones, quite frankly. I have a Mini 4 Pro with the small battery. I saw your video about deciding between remote ID module and buying the extended battery. Does the attached remote ID affects the flying? No, it doesn't. If you put a module on there, the drone is going to fly very much exactly the same. Those things are too small to make any difference. Andrew says, is there a time when you must use the FAA website to request an authorization? Using an app called Aloft, I was able to request in 0 feet near the airport. I got FAA approval through the app. No, not really. It depends on what you prefer. Personally, I actually prefer to go on the FAA website, but I'm kind of old school because that's always the way that we did it originally when you couldn't do it through the app. So no, it really depends on your preference. I believe one of your employee is an enterprise guy. Okay. Any video experience with the DJI Manifold 3? We have not played with the Manifold 3 just yet. So unfortunately, that's a no. Is DJI releasing the Air 4S soon? I have not seen any leaks on the Air 4S. I think it's too early. I'm sure it's in production. But it doesn't matter because we are likely not going to get that drone in the US. So that will be model number 3. All thanks to Stefanik and her comrades, AUVSI and co. No comment. They're patriots, they will tell you. They're patriots. They're patriots that love screwing American businesses. That's the best kind of patriots. Right, Scott? I registered my Air 2S yesterday and checked the FFA, the FAA, not FFA, if this one already qualified as a Cat 2 or Cat 3, and they said they have no DOC on this drone. How would you get that information? So let's talk about that. In order to fly over people, you need to have a categorized drone, category 1, 2, 3, or 4. Category 1 is a self decision, if you want. I'm not finding the right word, but if it meets certain requirement, it qualifies automatically as category 1. The Air 2S is not that, so it would have to be either category 2 or category 3. In order to qualify for that, somebody would have to do the paperwork with the FAA to submit and get a DOC, which is a declaration of compliance. No one has done that for that drone. So there's 2 options. Either a company would have to do, a company or individual person would have to go through that paperwork, put it through the means of compliance, and then get a declaration of compliance from the FAA. Very costly, very timely, very time consuming. Or somebody would have to make a parachute that is compliant, and that would turn that drone into category 2 or category 3, which is how other drones currently are doing it. So the Mavic 3 Enterprise, for example, has an AVSS parachute. When the parachute is installed, then the drone becomes category 2 and or 3, I think both of them. So yeah, that's how you would do it. Not easy, not something that somebody at home would do. You would need a company that has a reason to spend that kind of money on making it happen. But yeah, that's where we're at. Jacob says, I have an upcoming realtor shoot. Okay. Would transversing a city street while getting the ideal shot be considered illegal if the movement was straight across the road nonstop? So you can only cross a road if you are not flying over people in moving vehicles, or just people in general. Okay? So that's really all the FAA cares about. You could wait until there's no cars. So yeah, the street itself is not the problem. The people in the moving vehicles is the problem. That's why you cannot fly over people and moving vehicles. That's as simple as I can make it. Okay. Unless you have a waiver or a categorized drone, which we just discussed, category 2 or category 3. Okay. What else? Any other questions? We're out of questions. We've got 4 minutes to go. If no more messages, we are going to be back on Friday for news update. And do we have any videos in production right now for drone? We're going to record one this week. Yeah, we're going to record one this week. So yeah, we'll have a couple more videos coming up around the corner. We've been kind of busy doing other stuff. But yeah, that's where we're at. So if you have any more questions, leave them in there. I think I'm going to just end it. We've got 4 minutes to go. Again, I don't want to just chit-chat for no reason. But thanks for joining us. And as always, fly safe. And then hopefully I don't talk about you guys in news update for being that guy. That's it. That's all I got. Fly safe. See you next time.